Hello everyone. In this video, we will be talking about SLMs and some of my predictions about it. So I started thinking about this topic with a couple of observations from the past year and some of the conversations we have been having with the clients around LLM applications. So what's happening is people are investing into these projects and they're not getting the expected ROI out of those LLM projects. The thing is, most of the companies sell these LLM applications to the companies who are trying to adopt AI into their domains. Uh, and trust me, we might think that uh, how much more AI adoption is left, but if you go outside of the AI bubble, then I think there are still a lot of enterprises out there who are trying to adopt LLMs or AI into their uh, into their processes. So, but then why are they not seeing any results? The thing is, it's not that the use cases that these companies are producing aren't good and they do not provide any value. Uh, it's the opposite. Like these people, especially the areas like the non-tech areas, these people come up to us and bring real problems, real challenges, which would actually help them grow their business. But what happens is these systems are expected, or there's a perception around building this LLM applications that they would be developed fast and put into production fast. So the upfront investment is low because of my fast development cycle. So in the what happens is these service companies sell these applications or products to these clients, and they say that we will develop this within 3 to 4 months. And if we are being realistic, that's a very short amount of time to be developing these products. So what happens is, yes, LLMs or AI applications actually help us develop these tools faster. Um, and let's say we do just that and we deploy it, we go into production, everything seems to be working fine. But the conversation later starts that how are we going to actually monitor this systems? What is the observability out of this? And then there might also be instances where within like 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road, we have to keep maintaining and updating these systems, and yeah, they just become unpredictable in general. You either have to keep on maintaining and updating those prompts very frequently, or there might be some software changes that needs to be done. So in terms of like investment, let's say a yearly investment budget that the company has is around $100,000 per year, but and they're ready to pay that. They are big enough organization to afford that. It's a fixed uh, yearly uh, spend. But then we like the business people ask the question that it's okay of spending $100,000 within a product, but how much are we going to use it? And it especially important if the product that we are building is some sort of user facing. So a simple example for this might be a chatbot, right? So if I'm investing $100,000, how many realistically uh, people are going to use it on a day-to-day basis to justify those $100,000? It's a different case where there might be applications that might be running behind the scenes, and they might be running 24/7, and they can be solving real problems. And I think in that case, it's justified because it's running, it's processing things on a regular basis. So uh, the 100,000 spend is not an issue. The issue comes when I'll give you an example. So let's say we have put something in production, and 6 months down the line, the API for the LLM provider, which we're calling, changes in structure. This is a similar example to what's happening with OpenAI. We initially had the chat completions API, but now we have responses API, stuff like this. So then I have to put again some development efforts and time. So just a rough estimate. It's not actual numbers, but like let's say it needs $50,000 extra for the development and the migration to the newer APIs, then that becomes a problem because now suddenly uh, my planned $100,000 is now becoming $150,000. And then we can also add some more costs, like if we need additional infrastructure, or I don't know, there can be any type of miscellaneous cost that can be added, and they can blow up the costs on a yearly basis. It might not happen frequently, but there are chances that you might have to do stuff like this where it's just unpredictable. Or have if you see that sometimes when providers release some of the models, initially they are they perform like amazing, but then a few months down the line we get all these Twitter tweets that uh, the model's not performing properly. And I think that is what I'm actually pointing this video to, is that these are the issues that might happen. Uh, and there are other types of solutions as well. So let's say in bigger organizations, most of the people are already locked into Microsoft ecosystem because of their Teams subscription, like Microsoft 365 for the organizations. And because Microsoft has pretty good tie-ups with bigger organizations, their infra is mostly Azure. And uh, yeah, it just makes easier for organizations to have Azure and Microsoft environment. And then let's say uh, they want to build an agent on an application or chatbot which is internal facing for employees, example like an HR chatbot. And there are tools available. Let's say there's Microsoft Copilot, or there's Azure AI Foundry. And these tools are really amazing. They are no code solutions, but then there's a huge cost involved in that, where if I would have developed that separately, then it wouldn't have costed that much. So that's the thing, right? So the companies or the business people at some point go and ask, does this investment make sense, right? Because there's just too much effort afterwards. Like initially it's simple. Like I can prototype it, I can make sure that it's production ready and it goes into production and people are using it. But then it just becomes tedious to use this external LLMs. And then there's also the thing where uh, we might be using a frontier model, like let's say a Claude model, right? Uh, and Claude Sonnet, for example. And then we basically think that my use case is so simple, but yet I'm paying so much for that specific LLM. Uh, and yeah, there's a lot of things and a lot of variables where you just question all of those things. So slowly, business people or clients are asking that, is there a way that we can bring in more predictability, more control over what the model doesn't, and can we bring in more observability, monitoring, and everything that the traditional ML has? So this is what I call as falling into the traditional ML pipelines. So what that mean is the traditional ML pipelines have been there for now for decades, and they are pretty much stabilized and people know how to deal with this. So let's say there might be automated data pipelines, there might be automated training pipelines, automated monitoring pipelines, automated retraining pipelines, and stuff like that. It goes on and on, but everything's automated, everything is more controlled, predictable, and the systems are more robust overall. And that's what we want eventually in any sort of production environment, that they should just not fail, or even if they fail, that should be a very rare scenario. And me as a developer or a maintainer, I don't have to go regularly within the system and tweak with those things once I've set them up for the production systems. And that's where SLMs come into picture, because then you have a smaller model, you can train it on your custom data, and then you can decide how good of an accuracy you want. You can guide the model towards what to answer, what to not. You can guide the model on specific tasks that you want. So it becomes more specialized to that domain, to that application that you want to build. And on top of that, these open source models or SLMs, being small, they can be trained easily. But if even if we keep that part aside, their overall size is less. So the compute required is also less. And again, you can decide, like, it's not about spending money, it's about having control over the systems that you're building and putting into place for solving your problems. And with SLMs and deploying our custom models just brings that. And so once we set it up, the API is not going to change 6 months down the line, unless and until like it's some different feature or this, like you are deploying something different. But like you won't purposely go in and change something that doesn't needs to be changed, is what I want to say. And we just want that. We want robust systems. We can keep feeding new data, we can keep retraining those smaller models and deploying them. We can have proper version controlling, we can have proper observability and proper evaluations. It just brings more control. And I think uh, what I'm predicting is going forward, people are going to demand, or at least they're going to try out these SLMs uh, to see how they can reduce costs. Because right now we don't really have very solid numbers. Because one might say that, hey, if I'm paying for an API, now even if my inferencing is free, I'm still paying for the infrastructure and stuff like that. And I have to monitor I have to put in place some extra things that were not there when I was using an external provider API. So that's what I want to say, that I think up till now, AI engineers or the field didn't really care about fine tuning. And to be fair, it was not needed uh, till this point, where because not a lot of people or not a lot of organizations were fine tuning. We might think from an academic point of view that having the knowledge of fine tuning would be helpful, but in realistic sense, no one was using it, probably because the GPU cost, no one was skilled enough, uh, and stuff like that. But now people are more ready to put in the GPU costs, no matter uh, how much it is priced, because people are getting aware, like the business people are getting aware that it might be a realistic expectation for an AI engineer to ask for those resources. Previously, the AI engineers had to justify why they needed a GPU because it was just expensive. And in countries like India, where it's a very price sensitive market, GPU is just out of question. And from a production or deployment point of view, also, you just now have to worry about this extra system, and that's why no one was really caring about them. But now that the system, like the ecosystem of AI, has matured a bit over the years, the business folks are getting aware that, hey, yes, it costs, but GPUs and providing the engineers in-house to some GPU resources where they can experiment this LLMs or SLMs and try out fine tuning and see how it works. I think that is what will happen in 2026 or going forward, where I don't know how much of the SLMs will go into the production, but I certainly see a point where uh, the business people as well as the technical AI folks are now thinking more about, I should have not used such a big model for such a simple task. How about I fine tune it and put it out, and it is much more lightweight and simpler. And I think that's how it will be. So if you are someone who is very new to AI engineering, and or you work a lot on these applications, that I would encourage you to at least look into videos or some material into fine-tuning models with LoRa, Clora, or some other techniques that are there. Even if you can't afford the GPU infrastructure, or you don't have one at your home, so yeah, please do look into that. And yeah, I think SLMs are going to be a new topic, and we would now, as AI engineers, including me, uh, have to be more involved into the model training and evaluation and putting the inferencing in place, being accustomed with GPU infrastructure and stuff like this more. And I think it's not yet started. The applications are not yet started to come in for SLMs, but I think if we start now, we would be able to catch up to these things so that we are well prepared for when those projects come into picture. So I hope this gives you some insight into the business and some of the technical aspects of how the clients are thinking and how the ROI is impacting, and why the SLMs are going to be, or why I think SLMs are going to be the next thing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.